Welcome to Tried by Fire, where we can't think of anything to say at the moment. We're going back to the desert, and we're gonna get some food first. I don't know, maybe I'll record some of that and put it in here. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Find out when I edit it. If you go to Roseman, you have to go to Foster Freeze. Otherwise, don't go to Roseman. Yo, perfect burger. Look at that. Ew, gross. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and verse 3, it says, "If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be." And if we skip down to verse 6, it says, "In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether it shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good." And then skip down to verse 9 and 10, it says, "Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. Therefore remove sorrow from thy heart, and put away evil from thy flesh, for childhood and youth are vanity." We're here next to Happy Rock, by the way. Today's topic is called Rejoice in Youth. I believe the adults are really the people that should be the example and take the lead. But sometimes it's the kids that are stronger in this. 1 Corinthians 11:3 says, "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God." The best way to think of this is God first, self second, partner third, children fourth, the rest last. This order allows us to obtain the proper filling we need in order to fill our families. This chapter of Ecclesiastes looks towards the youth. Solomon seemed to always be looking toward the next generation. Proverbs was written for his family, and its wisdom passed down to the next generation. When we read through the things that relate to Solomon, we notice that he takes special care to point out the family, and specifically his kids. In Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." Proverbs 29:15, "The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame." Or Proverbs 29:17, "Correct thy son, and he shall give thee rest. Yea, he shall give delight unto thy soul." I could really go on. Even in this book of Ecclesiastes, he has spoken about the family. In Ecclesiastes 4:12, we read it, "And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken." In this chapter, we see a lesson on growing up and the impact your choices have as you get older. You want to make wise decisions while you're young so that when you're older, you only become wiser. Don't neglect your youth now. It will only cause more pain when you get older. Verse 3 says, "If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. And if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be."
We live in a world where parents are not training the next generation. Parents let TV dictate their children's actions. They let schools teach them how to behave. Most parents today don't use the Bible to help them parent.
If we're not parenting in a godly manner, we'll never see fruit from our labor in the next generation. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 7 says, "And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up." When we neglect God's standards, the world will teach our children their standards. The world thinks that the wrong things are always the right things.
Kids learn the hard way that everything that the world teaches them is hypocritical.
They stand up for movements that don't really believe in what they say they believe. For instance, the BLM protests. BLM protests are great. Black lives do matter. But the BLM organization is not great. They don't believe that Black lives matter. They believe that if you're white, you have a birth defect in your skin and that there's something wrong with you. They expect white people to apologize for the color of their skin, which is kind of anti what they're fighting for, but beside the point. They call themselves Marxist, following a man who was an atheist, literally declaring that religion has ruined our society, when in fact religion has proven to be a hospital for suffering people, real religion. No atheistic movement has ever done such a thing. And they follow the teachings of Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, a man who says that we are unequally evolved from different species and says that genetically, the white race is a superior one. This is what Darwin said. The more civilized so-called Caucasian races, right? Civilized Caucasian races, what an endless number of the lower races will have been eliminated by the higher civilized races throughout the world. And we can go on. Also, if BLM follows the teachings of Charles Darwin, then what happened to George Floyd, for instance, would be nothing more than evolution at its finest, and the police officers who committed the crime were just simply fit for survival. Because that's what evolution teaches, survival of the fittest. But kids don't think about these things when they join a movement. They just see someone sticking up for something and they automatically follow.
It's the bandwagon thing.
There's a few things they agree with, so therefore they must follow it. It must be true. And don't get me started on the LGBTQLFSPTOR, whatever it is these days, movement. There's a whole field of hypocrisy there that I won't get into.
We should love the Black lives and support them in their time of need, but we should not support the BLM organization. We should love the LGBT community as well, but we should not support the LGBT organization. There's a difference between loving and showing kindness and supporting hatred and sin.
And we, as leaders, should be teaching our children how to tell the difference and how to effectively involve themselves in those differences. In verse 3, in the first part of that, it says, if the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. 1 John 2:16 says, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. Solomon points out in this verse here that when the clouds get full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth. When I was in elementary school, I learned about the water cycle. They teach you that the ocean water evaporates into the air, condensates into a cloud, and then precipitates onto the earth. And it just recycles like that. It's just natural and it's common, but what they don't teach you is that there is a God who made this to work. There's a creator of the ocean, the clouds, and the way this life works and this cycle continues. There's a God who causes the rain to flow and gives us nutrients to our plants. This was how watering worked in orchards and fields for years. A farmer would have to wait to plant and grow crops until certain seasons of rain and weather. He couldn't just go out there and throw the seeds everywhere and hope that rain would come and then plants would just spring up out of the ground. No, he needed God to work.
If we taught our kids real history, we wouldn't see so much hatred. The world couldn't say it's because of the religion or the Bible. We have seen the Bible be taken out of public schools. We have seen Bible taken out of our court systems. We have seen the Bible taken out of our homes and out of families and out of TV. We have seen the Bible even taken out of our churches.
It's because of this that we have such a false reality of morality. It's because of this that the BLM movement isn't happy. It's because of this specific fact that she pointed out that LGBT is not happy. It's because of this that rioters are not happy. It's because of this that police officers are not happy. It's because of this that our children are growing up in a culture dedicated to canceling and killing off every good thing. It's because of this that we have lost all human decency and have replaced it with the ideal and precepts of a religion that teaches you that you've come from monkeys and your life ultimately doesn't matter in the end anyway, because there is no afterlife, so why even try? It's because of this that we have a broken society and we have racism plaguing the streets and we have murder through authority. You want things to go back to peace and morality? Then don't be stupid enough to take the Bible out of the lives of your family.
John 14:27 says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Peace is non-existent if Christ is not in your life.
Peace is dead when your Bible collects dust. D.L. Moody said, there will be no peace in any soul until it is willing to obey the voice of God. The second part of verse 3 says, and if the tree fall toward the south... Camera rig fell over. It's been a few days, but to continue. Second part of verse 3 says, and if the tree fall toward the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. In verse number 6 it says, in the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 1, it says, Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Rejoice in your young age. It is a gift that you get to be alive today. If you're older and hearing this, rejoice in the fact that you get to train up the next generation. Don't waste the life God has given you. Use this time to train up the generation that is following you. They can tell if you're phony or fake. In Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 10, it says, Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many.
In the first part of verse 6, it says, In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand. While sharing the gospel is part of the solution, there is much more than just sharing the gospel with people. We need to show people the gospel to people. Wow, we need to show the gospel to people.
We need to show people the gospel to people. We need to firstly show that the church works together. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 10, it says, Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. And this may sound like a no-brainer, but you'd be amazed how many churches fail in this area.
They claim to love Christ, yet they don't show a Christ-like love to one another. Matthew chapter 5 verse 41 says, And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. The saying, to go the extra mile, comes from this verse. Don't just stop there. We must show care by rejoicing with those that are rejoicing and hurt with those who are hurting. Romans chapter 12 verse 15 says it like this, Rejoice with thee that do rejoice, and
it's not an
with
old
thee.
English word, it's a word that we use every day.
Romans chapter 12 verse 15 says it like this, Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that do weep. Let's be a great example of a loving church by first loving each other.
Then the next best way to show others the gospel is to be calm in the face of adversity. No doubt there will be people who will reject your message and purposely try and hurt you with words of discouragement. That's what Satan wants in the end, is for you to ruin your testimony by being more angry than the person who's angry at you. There was a man at this train station that we were giving out gospel tracts at, and said that there was nothing stopping him from taking a gun out right now and shooting everybody in this train station. There's no God that would stop me from doing that. And I said, Look, sir, I'm sorry that you think that way, but I love you enough to share the gospel with you. You don't have to take the tract if you don't want to. And I walked away. A few moments later, probably about 10-15 minutes later, he comes and finds me and he says, Look, I'm so sorry, I'm just having a really hard day, and I was just trying to take out my frustrations, and I would love to take a tract. And so I gave him a tract. Instead of getting mad at him and saying, well, why would you do something like that? Why would you try and kill me? Why would you try and kill other people? And I just pled with him. I just said, even if you did that, there's still a God in heaven. There's still somebody that loves you. I love you, even if other people don't show that. You want to show that to people. Just keep loving people no matter what, and try and be around another Christian who can do the same thing.
Our kids need to be there to see this too. Our children need to see us sharing the gospel. They need to see us showing love toward other people. They need to see us stay calm in a situation where others are being crazy and angry. Kids remember these things and they cling to them more than anything else. So in the second part of that verse 6 it says, For thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good.
This is the wisest information a man can get. For thou knowest not. People sometimes like to think they know the latter end of something. They pretend like everything is under control. But we need to remember, Isaiah 55 and verse number 8 says, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. We don't know what will happen when we are obedient to give the gospel and live the gospel.
Verse 10 it says, Therefore, remove sorrow from thy heart, and put away evil from thy flesh. For childhood and youth are vanity. It's time for us to grow up. We can't waste our life worrying about how much we have. We must act like mature human beings.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11, it says, When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. It's time to ignite the flame of the gospel and start burning some of the world's hate down. Hebrews 12:29 says, For our God is a consuming fire, It's time we start to see those in the church as family and start treating them as such instead of purposely hurting them and tearing them down. John 13:34 says, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another." It's time to show the world the error of their ways and help correct the wrong path they've gone down.
It starts with you personally, taking the hurt of Christians personally, and then having compassion to other souls personally. Don't let the world dictate who you are going to be. Find the truth. Proverbs 23:23 says, "Buy the truth and sell it not. Buy the truth and sell it not." Also wisdom and instruction and understanding.
All right, well, if you liked that video, you should go and check out some of our other videos. If you're interested in learning more, we actually have a book called The Conclusion you can buy. It's a book I wrote. Be sure to check that out by going to the link in the description. We're also going to be having a giveaway soon of one of these awesome goatskin leather KJV black leather Bibles. It's got TBF right here on the corner. TBF. It smells like leather, it feels like leather, looks like leather, because it is leather. So if you want to win that, be sure to stay tuned on our Facebook pages, Instagram. I usually update things on podcasts, so be sure to subscribe on podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Play Podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on every podcast source you could possibly think of. I still don't know how to end this.